What would you do if your cat suddenly started screaming at 3 a.m., clawing desperately at your bedroom door, and refused to stop until you followed her outside? By the end of this video, you'll discover how one family's decision to trust their cat's bizarre behavior saved not just their lives, but exposed a scientific mystery that researchers still can't fully explain. It's February 3rd, 1975, 11:30 p.m. The Chen family farmhouse sits quietly under a blanket of fresh snow in Haicheng, China. Inside, oil lamps cast warm shadows as the family settles into their evening routines. The smell of jasmine tea mingles with the crackling of burning coal in the hearth. Li Wei works at the local seismology station, where he spends his days monitoring earthquake equipment that few people in 1975 truly understand. It's been a stressful few weeks. Strange readings on the instruments, minor tremors that don't follow any recognizable patterns. His supervisor dismissed his concerns, but something deep in Li Wei's gut tells him the earth beneath Haicheng is restless. His wife Mei hums softly while mending clothes by lamplight. Their 2 children play quietly with wooden toys near the warm stove. And there, curled peacefully by the fire, is Mimi, their sleek orange tabby with intelligent green eyes who has been the family's beloved companion for 6 years. Mimi isn't just a pet, she's family. She has her own rice bowl, her favorite sleeping spot on grandmother's quilt, and a personality as distinct as any human in the household. Li Wei often jokes that Mimi runs on a more precise schedule than the trains that pass through their village. Every morning at exactly 6 a.m., she wakes the children with gentle head bumps. Every evening at 8 p.m., she claims her spot by the stove. Every night at 10 p.m., she makes her rounds, checking on each family member before settling down to sleep. Mimi is predictable, affectionate, calm. The kind of cat who purrs when you walk past and seems to understand human emotions with uncanny accuracy. But tonight, something is different. At 11:45 p.m., as the house settles into its familiar nighttime rhythm, Mei notices something odd. Mimi isn't by the stove where she always rests. Instead, she's sitting in the center of the main room, perfectly still, staring at an empty corner with an intensity that sends a chill down Mei's spine. "Mimi?" Mei calls gently. The cat doesn't respond, doesn't even flick an ear. Her tail twitches with nervous energy, and her pupils are slightly dilated despite the warm lamplight. What Mimi senses in that moment will soon save 7 lives. At the stroke of midnight, something invisible but profound shifts in the world around them. Mimi's body suddenly goes rigid, every muscle tense as if she's been electrified. Li Wei is reviewing his seismograph readings when he hears it, a low, guttural sound he's never heard from Mimi before. Not a meow, not a purr, something primal and terrifying that seems to come from deep in her chest. "What's wrong with her?" Mei whispers, genuine fear creeping into her voice. Mimi stands in the doorway now, back arched, making an otherworldly wailing sound that raises the hair on everyone's arms. The children huddle closer to their grandmother, who sets down her sewing with shaking hands. "In my village," grandmother says quietly, "animals knew things before the floods came, before the great storms." But then Mimi's behavior escalates beyond anything they've ever witnessed. She bolts toward Li Wei, claws extended, jumping onto his desk and scattering papers everywhere. "Mimi, no!" Li Wei exclaims, trying to calm her. But she leaps from his desk to the floor, races to the front door, then back to him, over and over in frantic desperation. Her claws scratch against the wooden floor, leaving visible marks. Her wailing becomes continuous, urgent, desperate. She runs to each family member, meowing frantically in their faces, then returns to the door, scratching so hard that tiny drops of blood appear on the wood. "She's hurting herself," Mei says, tears forming in her eyes. The family has never seen Mimi behave like this, ever. She's always been gentle, predictable, calm. This is like watching a different animal entirely, one possessed by some urgent knowledge she cannot communicate in words. Li Wei's mind races, those strange readings at work, the minor tremors his supervisor ignored. His grandmother's old stories about animals sensing disaster. This is ridiculous. It's just a cat having some kind of episode. But what if grandmother is right? What if Mimi knows something we don't? 12:30 a.m. Mimi's desperation intensifies. She's now throwing herself against the door, her wailing echoing through the house like a banshee's cry. Li Wei makes a decision that will change everything. "Get your coats," he says firmly. "What?" Mei stares at him in disbelief. "Li Wei, it's the middle of the night. It's freezing outside. Get your coats. We're leaving. Now." "But where are we going?" Mei's voice rises with panic and confusion. Li Wei looks at Mimi, who has suddenly gone quiet, watching him with those intelligent green eyes as if she understands that her message is finally getting through. "I don't know," Li Wei admits, but she does. 1:15 a.m. The Chen family stands in their front yard, breath visible in the frigid air, feeling utterly ridiculous. They're huddled together in heavy coats and blankets, staring at their warm, inviting house while snow falls gently around them. "Li Wei, the neighbors will think we've lost our minds," Mei whispers, embarrassment and confusion battling in her voice. But Mimi sits calmly now, about 50 meters from the house, watching them with serene contentment. The frantic desperation has vanished, replaced by an almost peaceful satisfaction. Internal monologue voice. "We're standing in the snow at 1 a.m. because our cat had what looked like a nervous breakdown. This has to be the most ridiculous thing I've ever done. But what if she really does know something?" 1:30 a.m. The wait is agonizing. The children are getting cold despite the blankets. Mei keeps suggesting they go back inside to the warmth. 1:45 a.m. Still nothing. Li Wei begins to doubt himself, feeling foolish and embarrassed. 2 a.m. He's about to suggest they return to the house when Mimi suddenly stands alert, her ears perked forward as if she's hearing something beyond human perception. "Maybe we should go back," Li Wei starts to say. Then, at exactly 2:04 a.m., the earth beneath Haicheng begins to move. It starts as a gentle sway, like being on a boat in calm water. The family looks at each other with dawning realization and growing terror. Then the rumbling grows louder, deeper, more violent. The 7.3 magnitude earthquake tears through their village with devastating force. Buildings sway and crumble, windows explode, power lines snap and fall. Their house, their warm, safe house they had been reluctant to leave, collapses in on itself with a thunderous crash that echoes across the valley. "Oh my God," Mei breathes, grabbing her children and staring in absolute shock at what remains of their home. But the Chen family stands safely in their yard, alive and unharmed, because they trusted a cat who somehow knew what human science and sophisticated instruments couldn't predict. Mimi sits calmly beside them, green eyes reflecting the chaos, completely unfazed now that her humans are safe. She had done what seemed impossible. She had saved their lives through sheer determination and a mysterious connection to forces beyond human understanding. As dawn breaks over the damaged village, Li Wei realizes that Mimi hadn't been having a breakdown. She had been desperately trying to communicate the most important message of their lives, and somehow, miraculously, she had succeeded. But here's what will give you chills. They weren't the only ones. Across Haicheng, dozens of families reported identical behavior from their pets in the hours before the earthquake. Dogs refusing to enter buildings, cats clawing desperately at doors, animals displaying unprecedented agitation and distress. Local authorities, listening to these reports, had issued evacuation warnings that saved thousands of lives. The Haicheng earthquake became one of the most successful earthquake predictions in history, not because of scientific instruments, but because people listened to their animals. Today, scientists around the world study the Haicheng earthquake as proof that animals possess sensory abilities we're only beginning to understand. But Mimi's story raises questions that science still struggles to answer. How did she know? What did she sense that our most sophisticated equipment missed? If you've ever noticed your pet acting strangely before a storm, before someone gets sick, or before something significant happens in your life, you're witnessing something profound. These animals we share our homes with may be more connected to the natural world than we ever imagined. Hit that like button if Mimi's incredible story amazed you, and subscribe with notifications on, because next week we're exploring the dolphin who guided a lost fishing boat through shark-infested waters for 3 days straight. A rescue that marine biologists still call impossible. But I want to hear from you. Has your pet ever acted strangely before something significant happened? Have you ever had that moment where you wondered if they knew something you didn't? Share your story in the comments below, because after hearing about Mimi, I believe our pets are trying to tell us things we're only beginning to understand. Remember, in a world of sophisticated technology and scientific instruments, sometimes the most important warnings come on four paws and speak in a language older than words. The next time your pet tries to tell you something, maybe you should listen.